Good morning everyone, welcome to this edition of Weekly Roundup. Myself Nilesh and I will be taking this session. In this session, we will be covering important development of the last week. Before we start today's session, let's see the headlines of the last week. In this session, we will be covering 5 main news, 1 personality in news and 7 quick updates. In main news, first main news is about small language models as it is the future of the artificial intelligence. Then second main news is about UNSC reforms as the model is proposed by the group of 4. Then third main news is about China's population decline. Then fourth main news is about student suicide as Supreme Court have given the directions regarding it. And the last main news is about Delhi pollution and the context is that Commission for the Air Quality Management have given the report regarding it. And in personality in news, we will be covering Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose. So let's start the first main news of the day. The first main news of the day is about small language models as it is the future of the artificial intelligence as described by the Union Minister. And this topic is very important for GS paper 3, that is science and technology and development of the science and technology and its application in everyday life. In this topic, we will see what is the small language models, what are their significance and what are their limitations. So let's start the discussion. So what is the background? The background is that the Union Minister of Electronics and IT have stated that the small language model is the future of artificial intelligence. Before we discuss anything, let's see some of the important terms. The first important term is about small language model and large language model. What are those? So basically these are the data sets which are processed by the artificial intelligence and then we get desired answer in the artificial intelligence. So in large language model, the data set is large. In small language model, the data set is small. The processes are limited. So this is the basic difference. Now we will see what is the small language model. So what is the small language model? As we already discussed, small language model is the compact AI systems built on the simpler neural networks and architects designed to generate and understand the natural language as the LLM do. So as we already discussed, it is also a AI model, but its scale is small and it is not as large as large language model. Secondly, what are the parameters used by the small language models? So basically it is in millions to 30 billions, whereas in large language models, these parameters may be in hundred of billions or even the trillions. So this is the difference. The parameters used in the small language models are limited as compared to the large language models. And at presently about 95% of the total AI work is done by the small language model. So please remember that even we are discussing large language model in the news, but the actual work is done by the small language model. So this is about the small language models, right? Now we will see what are the advantages of the small language models over the large language models. The first advantage is they are cheaper. And why they are cheaper? Because they are smaller and typically require less components and the electricity or the infrastructure. Please understand, we already discussed that one of the drawbacks of the AI is that it consumes large amount of energy for their servers to work, and when you have the small language model, then processes are limited and the server requirement is also limited, and that time the cost of the model is also limited. That is the one aspect, that these are the cheaper, and because these are cheaper, they can be set up by the developing countries also. In case of the large language model, there is huge investment need, and then there is the constraint of the developing it. Secondly, they are ideal for the on device deployment. And what is it? So they can be deployed offline also. This is not the case with the large language model or the AI in the conventional use. So these are very efficient and they can be applied online. Also, they can be optimized for the efficiency and they can work in the limited connectivity, memory and the electricity. So your internet of things devices such as your smart watches or the TVs and all those equipments can be worked in the small language model without the connection of the internet. So this is also very significant development than the large language model. Please remember this. Then the democratization of the AI. Please understand, as we already discussed, because the investment needs are the limited and even the small countries can develop it. Even small corporations or companies can deploy the AI or develop the AI. This is not the case with the large language models. And because the technology is accessible and can be developed by the various agents, even the individuals or the companies, the democratization is happening because everyone will have the access to the advanced technology, which is the need of the future. So that is why LLM is doing what? Democratization of the AI. And then other things are also there which are also very important, such as streamline monitoring and the maintenance. Because the scale is small, then maintenance and and monitoring is limited and it can be done efficiently. Then also improve the data efficiency and data privacy, because these models can be stored in our country itself or in the organization itself. The threats of the data breach are very limited. So that is also one of the aspect, and this is important for your article 21 of the constitution, right to privacy. Then there is also lower infrastructure need, as we already discussed. Then deeper expertise for the domain specific task. So what it is doing, so basically small language models are for the specific purposes, for example health or education or agriculture. So these language models can be designed for the specific sector and they will work in that specific sector. They will have the data regarding that specific sector and not all over data as we see in the large language models, and they will be efficient in that regard because they will have the limited data and they will have the limited application in this specific sector. Because they will have the limited data set, their speed will be higher. So this is also one of the significance of the small language models. And then lastly, low latency. What is the latency? Latency means when you give some input and then output is given by the device, and the time between that is the latency. Latency is the delay, and because they have the limited data sets, they will give the fast response, and because of the fast response they have the lower latency. So this is the all about all significance of the small language models. Now we will see some of the limitations of the small language models over the large language models. And the first limitation is less accuracy. Why less accuracy? Because they have the limited data. Please remember, if this is just for the example purpose, if we are studying the history and the data set is still from the 1800, and if you ask the question, was India developed, so the question will be no, and then AI will say that we are increasingly developed, and that development is significant after 1947, after independence. But this is not true. If we are using the large language model and if it will have the data from the ancient India, then it will say that we were the advanced economy, but after the arrival of British, our economy declined, and then after the 1947 we started seeing the development again. So this is the difference. Because of the lack of data, there may be lack of accuracy in the small language models. This is the one thing. Then second thing is narrow scope. as we already discussed, these things are specially developed for this specific application, and that is why their scope will be very narrow for these smaller specialized data sets, and they are less flexible as compared to large language model. So this is also one of the limitation. And then other limitation are less creativity, less data analysis. Less creativity because they all AI machines actually work on the data. Larger the data, more accurate and more comprehensive their strategy will be. But in this case, they will have the less data, and that is why they will be less creative. Secondly, they will have the capacity of late data analysis, and they will have limitation of complex processes. So they cannot do the complex processes, or they will have the some of the less accuracy in the complex processes because of the data set limitation. So this is about the limitation of the small language models or the large language models. Now we will see what are the reasons for the increasing adaptation of the small language models in India. And the first is the multilingual advantage, because India have the various languages. Almost 22 languages are there in Indian constitution as the schedule 8 languages. So these are the one of the disadvantage. And then there is next 500 million opportunity. What is the 500 million opportunity? Which means the population more than 500 million will be using the small language models. Which are other sectors which have achieved the 500 million opportunity? That is the internet. Today, almost 1 billion people in India are using the internet in some form or other. So this is also one of the scope. And then age ready performance. So we already discussed that it can work in the offline and ensure the data privacy also. So that point is same. Then there is task focus efficiency. We have also discussed it, that it will be applied and can be applied in the specific sector. So that is the same point. Then rapid market growth. So please see, today it is about 1 billion industry in 2025, and by 2032 it will be 5 billion industry. So there is large scope of increase, and it will also boost the economic development also. And then right size AI. The large AI will not be useful for various purposes, and in India there is also data as well as the fund constraint, and in that thing the adaptability and the practical deployment of the small language model is very easy. So this is the reason why we are seeing the small language models are growing in India. Now we will see previous year question regarding it. And the first question is that with the present state of development, artificial intelligence can effectively do which of the following? The first thing is the bring down the electricity consumption, as there will be smart intelligent techniques, and it will suggest us to where the electricity is needed, where it is not needed. By that way, first thing is right. Then create meaningful short stories and songs. This question is of 2020, and then it was very difficult for AI to create the meaningful stories. Today it can do, but in the context of 2020 it was not correct. So option A, option C and option D is wrong. So what is the correct option? That is option B. And what is the third? Disease diagnostics. It can do it, and also text to speech conversion. So it is also the task of the AI. So this is the answer. Now see the mains question. The emergence of the fourth industrial revolution has initiated e-governance as the integral part of the government. And what is the industrial revolution 4.0? So all the emerging technologies, for example AI, quantum, then robotics, Internet of Things, all these things are revolutionize the governance, and it is How it is revolutionized? It is increasing speed, transparency, and also service delivery. So you can state these technologies and how they can or they are helping in the governance, you can mention. So this is all about the first news. Now we will see the second news of the day. So second news of the day is about the United Nations Security Council reforms, as the model is proposed by the group of 4. And this is very important for GS paper 2, that is important international institution, agencies and their structure and mandate. In this topic we will see about the United Nations Security Council and what is the model proposed by the group of 4 and what is the need of that model or the amendment. So what is the development? So we already discussed it. What is the group of 4 here? So group of 4 are the aspiring or the developing or the developed economies which want their share in the United Nations Security Council, and those are India, Brazil, Germany and Japan, and they want the permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council. Now please understand, what was the purpose of the United Nations Security Council? After the Second World War, there was need for the security of the nations and the international order. After First World War, there was League of Nations formed. And what was the purpose of League of Nations? To avoid the First World War like situation, but it failed miserably, and within 20 years there was Second World War. And after Second World War, there was need of such organization which will be robust and will avoid such kind of large scale destruction after the Second World War. And that is why the United Nations were formed, and particularly United Nations Security Council have the task to avoid such conflicts. So this is the brief background. Now we will see about the UNSC and what are its details. So basically it was established by the United Nations Charter, and it is this one of the 6 main organs, which are other 5 organs. So UNGA, United Nations General Assembly, then Secretariat, then Trusteeship Council, then ICJ, International Court of Justice, so and then ECOSOC, Economic and Social Council. So these are the 5 other organs of the UN. So please remember that the question can be asked regarding any of these organs, and especially UNSC. So this is the one of the organ of the 6 main bodies. Then what is the function? So its function is to maintain the security in the world. And how it maintains the security in the world? So it have the various instruments. First is the sanctions. So it can impose sanction on various countries or the country which is not obeying the international law or the obligation. So it can impose the economic and political sanction on it. Then they can also deploy the peacekeeping forces in such countries to bring the law and order. Also they can take direct military action in the case where the country is rogue and is not listening or taking action adversarial to the global or international peace. So these are the some of the instruments available to it. Now we will see the structure. So basically it is a 15 member body, and in that 15 member, 5 are the permanent members and the 10 are the non-permanent members. And the 5 permanent members have the veto power. First see the 5 permanent members, and those are USA, UK, France, China and Russia. And what is the veto? So basically veto is the power where they can oppose the any resolution single-handedly. For example, there is resolution regarding the Ukraine, and that resolution is adversarial for the Russia. Now that resolution is passed by the 14 countries. For example, in the UNSC, Russia can single-handedly oppose that resolution, and that resolution will not be passed just because Russia have opposed it. So any permanent member having the veto can oppose any resolution irrespective of the other country's approval or disapproval. So this is the prominence of the veto power. Please remember this thing. Now, what is the significance of the 10 non-permanent members? So these are elected by the General Assembly and their term is 2 year each, and also they are not eligible for the immediate re-election. So there should be a cooling off period between one uh, um, membership, and then there will be a cooling off period. So immediate re-election is not possible in this case. So please remember these things. Now we'll see some of the key reforms proposed by the group of four, and the first key reform is the expansion of the council. So they are saying that council should be expanded to the membership of 25 to 26 seats, and in that 25 to 26 seats, 6 should be new permanent members, and then the total membership of the permanent member will be 11, and they are saying the 14 or 15 will be there as the non-permanent members. That is the one thing. Then they have also given the regional distribution of the new permanent members. And what is that distribution? So 2 will be from the African member states, then 2 will be from the Asia Pacific members, then 1 from the Latin America and the Western European and other countries. But what are the issues in this? So first issue is that the United Nations process. The process is two step. In one step, the resolution is passed at United Nations General Assembly by the 2/3 majority, and if that resolution is passed, that resolution will be referred to the UNSC, and here if any of the permanent member opposes this resolution cannot be passed, and that is the main obstacle in the UNSC reform. Secondly, there are some of the organizations which are also opposing the UNSC reform, and which are those organizations? One of that is Coffee Club. So this is the club of some of the countries, and they are opposing the UNSC reforms. Then there are some of the organizations which are also supporting those reforms, but they have the different agenda than the G4, and some of that are the C10. So C10 are the member countries of the Africa, 10 member countries, and they are also proposing the reforms, but their reform agenda is different than the group of four. So these are the some of the impediments. Now we will see what is the India's position or India's representation in UNSC till today. So till today, India have been elected 8th time in the UNSC as a non-permanent member, and lastly it was elected in 2022. So India was elected in 2022. So this is India's representation in the UNSC till today. So this is all about the UNSC reform proposed by the group of four. Now we will see what is the need of the UNSC reforms, right? And what is the first need? So first need is outdated power structure. Please understand, when second world was over, there were some of the important countries or the superpowers who got the access to the permanent membership in the UNSC. Over the period of time, there have been making and breaking of the power, such as Soviet Union is disintegrated, and there are new power centers which are emerging. For example, Brazil, India, South Africa, all these countries, and these countries are not getting due respect or the access to the UNSC membership. That is the one thing. This structure is of 1945 and then realities, and it is not reflecting the realities of the today. That is the one thing. Then secondly, veto deadlock. As we already discussed, even the single permanent member, if opposes the resolution, it cannot be passed. We can see it in the Gaza conflict or the Ukraine conflict. Here Russia opposes it, here USA opposed it, and what is the implication? The people are suffering because of the veto power or the veto deadlock, and that is why UNSC reforms are very important. Then thirdly, under representation. Please remember that major nations, as we already discussed, are not represented in the UNSC, and if they are not represented in UNSC, the relevance of this mega organization or the international organization declines over the period of time, and they will not have the legitimacy in the international sphere. Also, these are the middle powers. In this context, recently in World Economic Forum, Canadian Prime Minister gave the very nice speech regarding the middle powers and their role in the international relationship. He quoted various things and the various principles in the international relationships in that regard. You can listen that speech and you can quote some of the quotes gave by him and the some of the principle gave by him and the role of the middle powers in the international relations. So go and see that speech, and then you will understand the underrepresentation is there in UNSC, and that is not very advisable for the any international fora. And then lastly, financial dependence. Please understand, some of the institutions such as UNESCO was such largely dependent on USA. Almost 50% of its funding was coming from the USA, and if it is dependent on single donor, then the efficiency and the their integrity is compromised, and that is the case here also. Because the lack of membership, the financial dependence on single country or the few countries is larger, and if their dependence is larger, they cannot take autonomous decision, and that is why UNSC reforms are needed also. So these are some of the points. Reforms are needed. Now we will see previous year question regarding the UNSC. The first question is about UNSC of the UN consists of the 5 permanent members, and the remaining 10 members are elected by the General Assembly for the term of. It is very easy. We have already discussed it. The answer is B, 2 years, right? Then see the main question, and the main question is discuss the impediment India is facing in the pursuit of the permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council. This question have been asked almost 2 to 4 times, and you have to prepare that. We have already told you what are the impediments such as copy curve and the procedural impediments. Then you will see what is the need of the reforms, right, and what are the initiatives taken. So you can write all those things in this answer. So please try to write the answer. Now we'll see next main news of the day. So third main news of the day is about the China's population decline for the 4th consecutive year, and this topic is very important for your GS paper 1, that is population and associated issues. So basically the population decline or population winter, this demographic winter, this question have been asked by the UPSC almost 2 times in the previous years. So that is why it is very important for us. Now we will see what is the background. So as we already discussed, these figures are not very important for us, but we will see them in brief. So the population of China dropped by the 3.39 million to almost 1.4 billion, while the total population or the number of births dropped nearly 7.92 million in 2025. And now this is called as demographic winter, where the population is declining or the birth rate is declining, and that is why population is declining. And this is now not restricted to the developed countries. So basically previously it was considered that the population winter or demographic winter is restricted to the developed countries, but now we can see it is not restricted to the developed countries, and it is now seen in the developing or the least developed countries also. That is the one thing. Before we proceed further, let us see some of the key terms which will be important. So first is total fertility rate. And what is total fertility rate? So basically it is the number of children given birth by the single woman or the woman in the fertile age or the total life cycle of her. So that is the total fertility rate, and if that rate is 2.1, then population will be constant or will not decline or not increase. So that this is the replacement rate. And then secondly, we will see demographic transition. And demographic transition is generally considered in the 5 phases. In first phase, the birth rate and the death rate will be higher, and that is why population will be lesser. In the second phase, what happens? Because of the healthcare facilities improve or the other facilities will improve and the birth rate will remain high, the population will be having the highest rise in the second phase. And in third phase, what happens? That even if the birth the death rate is declining, the birth rate is also not increasing very fast, and in that case the increase in population is moderate. In fourth phase, what happens? That the birth rate is also declining and the death rate is also declining, so here it will be the constant, that population will be constant, not increasing or not decreasing. And in last phase, there will be decrease in the birth rate very significantly and the death rate will be decreasing very minuscule, and in that case population will start declining, and this is the demographic winter. So this is about the background of this news. Now we will see what are the demographic winter. As we already discussed it in the demographic transition, still we will see here again that it is the demographic phase where the persistent or the structural decline in the population growth. And what is the key indicators include? The first key indicator is birth rate below the replacement rate. As we already discussed, what is the replacement rate? That is 2.1. And then inverted population pyramid. So we already discussed that in the pyramid. So it was in the demographic transition only. So in population was increasing, and after the fourth phase it start declining. So shrinking and the aging population is increasing. So what happens? That the aging population is higher than the working population. So in the pyramid of the population is inverted. So the elder people are higher and the working population is lower here. So that is the second indicator of the demographic winter. So this is all about the demographic winter. Now we will see the reasons of the demographic winter. The first reason is delayed milestones. So what happened? That your career aspirations are growing and people are getting ambitions. Even female are, because of the education, are getting inspired, and because of that the marriage is the second priority in today's generation. If you start preparing for the UPSC, then also your age will increase. So this is one of the reason. Because of the milestones are delayed, their marriages are also delayed, and that is why they will have the lesser children, or their children carrying capacity will be lesser. Secondly, urbanization. And because of the urbanization, the spaces are smaller, and that is why there will be lesser children, because raising children is costly in the urban setup, and that is why the parents will prefer the lesser children so that they can take care of their children effectively, and because of that the population growth is declining. Then societal and cultural shift. So basically previously if female had the larger number of childs, she was referred good, but now there is awareness in the women also, and also they are participating in the workforce, they are working, and because of that the societal mindset is changing. That is also one of the reasons. And then access to the family planning. So people are getting aware and they are using family planning and mitigation measures, and that is why also the family size is reducing. Largely policies are also there, such as one child policy in China, which is affecting the population growth. In India also we had the Nara, that is hum do hamare do. So such policies is affecting the population growth. So these are some of the reasons why population is not increasing or the demographic winter is coming. Now we will see what are the way ahead in the demographic winter. And the first way ahead is pro-natalist policies through financial incentive and parental leaves. So what should government do? So government should promote parental leaves and incentive for the first born child, or the pre-natalist policies before the birth of the child. They should incentivize or give the monetary benefits so that parents will have the incentive to have the more children. That is the one thing. Secondly, adopting to the silver economy. What is the silver economy? In silver economy, the expertise of old age people is used. Generally we see old age people as a burden, but old age people have their own expertise. They will have the various knowledge and expertise in various field, because they have worked in various field over the period of time. So you can use that work and experience in the economy, and by that you can achieve the economic development. So that is also one of the aspect to tackle the demographic winter. Then economic structural reform, such as addressing the cost of living. So if there is lesser room rent or the uh, accommodation, travel, food, education, if such facilities are cheaper, then people can have the more children and demographic winter can be avoided. And lastly, global migration governance. So what can be done? In some of the countries there is huge population of the young people, that is demographic dividend. And from that countries, the skill workforce or the young people can be migrated to the countries where demographic winter is going on, such as from India we can send people to the Italy or Russia and such countries, so that demographic winter can be tackled in those countries. So this is the way ahead to tackle the demographic winter, right? Now we will see the previous year question regarding it. The first question is asked in 2024, and the question is saying that what is the concept of demographic winter, as we already discussed it in very brief manner. In the it is the world moving toward the such situation. Obviously world is moving towards such situation. We see demographic winter in China now, Russia, Europe. And what is the solution? So way ahead, which is given in the answer in the discussion, can be written here. So this is about the demographic winter. Now we will see the another question. So this is about the empowering women is the key to control the population growth. So we already discussed, because women are empowered, their participation in workforce is increasing. Also they are aware about their bodily rights, fundamental rights, and also they are aware about the welfare of the children. So all of these things actually contributing to the population control of the population growth in India also. So this is about the third main news. Now we will see next main news of the day. So fourth main news of the day is regarding the Supreme Court directions regarding the student suicide in the higher education institution. And this topic is important for GS paper 2, that is issues related to the management of the social sector relating to the education, and GS paper 2, that is the mechanism for the protection of the vulnerable sections. So let's start the discussion. What is the development? So please remember this case, and this case is Amit Kumar versus Union of India. And in this case, Supreme Court actually formulated the National Task Force, and the purpose of this task force was to suggest the measures for the student suicides to decline or to avoid the student suicides. So this task force was formed, and this task force have given some of the measures in the Supreme Court. Now we will see what are the causes of the suicides and what are the measures to avoid it. Before that, what are the some of the observations given by the Supreme Court? The first observation is that there is rising cases of suicide. And what is that number? The number is staggering. 13,000 students committed suicide in single year 2022 as per NCRB data, and the age is between 15 to 29. And secondly, there is expansion of higher education institutions. So they are saying that because of the massification and the privatization, these organizations are increasing, but they are not taking care of the student welfare, and there are societal inequalities and structural inequalities which can be seen in these organizations, right? Now we will see what are the key reasons for the student suicides, and this is given by the committee. And the first reason is that shortage of facility, infrastructure, staff, leadership, all these things. And what happens because of the shortage of all these facilities? It reduces the or weakens the institutionalized governance. Then grievance redressal mechanism and accountability, because there is lack of staff or the faculties, students are unable to convey their grievances to the concerned authorities. That is the one thing. Then second thing is poor institutional responsibility. What happens many times if the suicide happens, though institution try to avoid or to do not report it, because their reputation is damaged and admission can be hampered. So that is the second thing. Then there is financial stress. Generally many times what happens, the scholarship are not disbursed on the time, and because there is lack of funds, the student coming from the poor section may be facing that issue, and they don't want to convey this to their parents, and what they do, they generally take their lives, and that is one of the reason. Then there is scattered frameworks. So there are frameworks, but these frameworks are very scattered, and that they are not working in tandem. So which are those frameworks? First is the UGC regulations. Then National Education Policy 2020 is also talking about the avoiding and reducing the student suicides. Then National Suicide Prevention Strategy is there. Then Mental Health Care Act 2017 also talk about the student suicide, but these policies and frameworks are not in sync with each other, and that is why their effectiveness is very limited. So these are some of the reasons for the higher student suicides in the recent years. Now we will see what are the key directives or the directions given by the Supreme Court to reduce the student suicides in the higher education institution. The first is that data on the student suicide. So Supreme Court told that there should be transparency, and there should be a centralized mechanism to have the actual or accurate number of student suicide data, so that policies can be framed effectively. Secondly, reporting of the suicide should be mandatory. So these organizations should not hide the suicide, and they should proactively report the suicides. Then addressing the faculty shortages. So they are saying that the vacancy of the post should be filled, such as chancellor or registrars and other administrative positions should be filled within the 4 months. Please remember this fact, within the 4 months these vacancies should be filled. Then there should be compliance with the all existing regulation. So what are the existing regulation? Such as establishment of anti-ragging committees, then anti-discrimination officers, and internal complaint committees. So what happens If the student is from the SC or ST, they are harassed by the some of the other students. That is the one example, such as Rohit Vemula is the case. And then there is the case of raggings. So ragging is done by the seniors or the some of the students on some other student, and it can affect the psychological and mental health of that particular student. So these are the some of the reasons, and then there should be compliance mechanism where student can report these discrimination or the harassment they are going through. So this is one of the thing. Then there are other measures also suggested, such as qualified medical help should be there. If student have gone through some physical or mental trauma, so there should be some medical help, and there should be clearing of the pendencies within the 4 months. So that is also there. And if there is some suicide attempt, then there should be medical assistance within the 1 hour. So these are some of the suggestions given by the Supreme Court to avoid or reduce the student suicide in the higher education institutions. Now we will see some of the previous year question regarding it. The first question is that why suicide among the young or youth women is increasing in the India or Indian society. And this question is not related to higher education students or women student only, but overall, what are the reasons? So increasing stress, changing lifestyle diseases, loneliness, all these things. Also you can write the point we actually discuss in the our discussion, that is ragging also, right? Discrimination on the basis of caste or religion or the place or language or even the birth. All these things can be discussed here, and then you can also discuss the some of the solution in this answer. See the next question. The next question is about examine the main provisions of the national child policy and throw the light on the status of its implementation. So national child policy is very important, where child is given the status of subject. It recognizes their fundamental rights and suggest welfare measures such as education, health, then their mental development. So all of the things which are also very important to avoid the student suicide or the children suicide in India. So you can write such measures in your answer also. So this is all about the fourth main news. Now we will see last main news of this week. So last main news of the week is about air pollution in the Delhi-NCR, as the Commission for the Air Quality Management CAQM have given the report regarding the causes of the air pollution in the Delhi-NCR, and this is very important for your GS paper 3, that is environmental protection, pollution and the degradation. Now see the development of the news. So development is regarding the MC Mehta versus the Union of India case. This case is very important for the environmental conservation and the environmental protection. You can quote this case in various answers to get the good marks. This case is very famous, and you can give that case. This is the landmark judgment or the landmark case regarding the environmental protection. Please remember this. So before we discuss the news, let's see some of the key terms in this regard. The first key term is AQI. So this is air quality indicator, and this is proposed or started by the environmental ministry, and it consists of the 8 pollutants. And which are those 8 pollutants? So PM10, PM2.5, nitrous oxide, sulfur oxides, there carbon monoxide, ozone, then ammonia, and then lead. So these are the 8 components which are there when we measure the AQI. and AQI is categorized in these 6 categories. Please remember this fact. The question can be asked regarding it. And which are those 6 categories? So first category is good, then satisfactory, then moderate, then poor, then very poor, and then severe. So these are the 6 categories, please remember that, and these are the 8 pollutants which are there in AQI. So this is the important information regarding your exam. The question can be asked regarding it, so please remember this. Now we will see key findings of the report. So report is giving various pollutants and their percentage in the Delhi's pollution. The first is that secondary particulate matter, and it is saying that around 27% of the total pollution in Delhi is because of the secondary pollutant matter. And what are the primary pollutants and secondary pollutants? So primary pollutants are the pollutants which are emitted from the direct source, for example vehicles or the industry, and which are those such as carbon dioxide, sulfurous oxide, then nitrous oxide. All these are the primary pollutants. And what are the secondary pollutants? When these primary pollutants reacts with environment, then it creates the secondary pollutants, right? So these secondary pollutants are not directly from the sources, and that is the definition given. What are the secondary pollutants? So these are the fine particles formed in the atmosphere through the chemical reaction. Please remember this. The reaction is very important of the primary chemicals with the environment or the other factors of the precursors, such as we already discussed, nitrous oxide or ammonia or the volatile organic compounds, right? So this is about the first important pollutant. Then what are the other major pollutants? That is transport sector, and that is contributing around 23%. Then there is biomass burning, and biomass burning is contributing around 20%. So parali is burn, or the residue are burn in the Punjab or Haryana and other neighboring state, and that is the reason of the biomass burning and the related pollution. Then there is dust, which accounts for the 15%. And what are the sources of the dust? The construction going on or the open fields without the trees and all that. Also the deserts, such as Thar desert, and because in the winter the winds flow from the desert side to the India and it brings the dust with them, and that is why recently there was Arauli, definition of Arauli was changed and there was huge protest. If the Araulis are diminished, that dust will directly come to the North India and the pollution will increase rapidly with exponential numbers. That is the significance of the Arauli. And please remember, today the percentage is 15%. It is high even today. And then industry such as coal industry and other industries are contributing the 9%. Now we'll see some of the other important findings given in the report. And what are those findings? So it have given about the trends of PM 2.5 and PM 10, and it is saying that there is gradual decline or stable trends from 2016, but these are still very high in the context of the National Ambient Air Quality Standards. So the level of PM 2.5 and 10 are also very high, even if there is gradual decline or the stagnation. So what is the standards? So standard for PM 2.5 and PM 10 is 60 microgram per cubic meter and 40 microgram per cubic meter. And even though there is stagnation, but these are the even higher for the annual average recommended according to annual National Ambient Air Quality Standard. So this is also one of the finding. Then transboundary pollution. So it is saying that the 2/3 of the Delhi's pollution of the 2.5 is not actually originating in Delhi, but it is originating in around state or the around area, and that is coming into Delhi. So that is also very important. And lastly, it is saying the seasonality. So season is also a villain. How? So pollution peaks during the winter due to the low wind speed, then shallow planetary boundary layer, and the atmospheric stagnation. So what happens? This is the ground, and this is the lower layer of the earth, and this is the higher layer of, this is the hot air, this is the cold air. So cold air is denser and the heavier. What happens? This air cannot be uplifted upwards. So this layer is stagnant here, and all the pollutant is accumulating here. And then also there is no wind to blow away this pollutant. So this start get increasing in the winter, and that is why air quality diminishes. So this is all about the findings given in the report. Now we will see some of the recommendation given to remedies. So what are the recommendation given? So these are the very normal recommendation. You can just read and remember that. First is infrastructure. So they are saying that there should be augmentation of the waste to energy plants. There should be barrier free toll gates, so that vehicles will not be trapped there at the toll gates for the hours polluting. And then rationalization of the environment compensation charge. Then secondly, there should be transport reforms. The old vehicles should be scrapped very effectively, and there should be promotion of the zero emission mobility, such as e-vehicles or the CNG vehicles. And then lastly, there should be governance reforms, such as annual action plans of the various government, and that is how accountability will be set in the various state governments and the central government and Delhi government to reduce the pollution overall. So these are the recommendations given regarding the reducing the pollution. Now we will see the previous year question asked regarding it. The first question is about, according to the Environmental Protection Agency, which one of the following is the largest source of the sulfur dioxide emission? And the answer is power plants using the fossil fuels. So this is the largest polluting industry according to Environmental Protection Agency. This is the one thing. Now see second question. This second question is about the copper smelting industry, and it is asking about the statement that it releases the lethal quantities of the carbon monoxide. When you are attempting any question, please understand, you should give the importance to the language. Here it is saying lethal. So lethal is the very toxic than the general. So if it is the lethal industry, then people will oppose it. So this is the one fact, and that is why first statement should be considered wrong. So if that is the wrong, your answer is B. See the second statement. Copper smack can cause the leaching of the heavy metals. That is true. Any slag of steel or any other slag of the any metal will leach and will have the capacity to toxicate the environment, and then they may release the sulfur dioxide in the pollution. That is also true. So the answer is B. So this is all about the main news. Now we will see the personality in news. So let us see the personality in news, and personality in news this week is the Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose. And what is the context? The context is that government is celebrating his 129th birth anniversary as the Parakram Divas, and which falls on 23rd January. So this is the context. Now we will see about the key contribution of Netaji. And first contribution is that he was prominent leader in the Indian National Congress, and he was the president of the Indian National Congress in 1938 and 1939, and he resigned due to the differences with the other Congress leaders. So this is the important fact. Then he wrote for the Chittaranjan Das newspaper, and the newspaper name is Forward. And he also started his own newspaper, and his newspaper's name is Swaraj. So please remember that UPSC have the knack of asking the question regarding the newspaper and its founders. So the Forward was set up by the Chittaranjan Das, and Netaji used to write in it, and his own newspaper's name is Swaraj. Then he escaped from the British imprisonment or the house arrest in 1941 and sought the help from the Germany and Japan for the India's total independence. So this is the thing. Then he led Indian National Army, also known as INA or the Azad Hind Fauj, from the 1943, and he fought in INA alongside the Japan against the British in the Northeast India and in Burma. He also established provincial government of the Free India in Imphal, Manipur, right? And what was the purpose? To mobilize the Indians against the anti-British rule and to gain India independence. And his values were patriotism, courage, and leadership. And because of his role in Andaman and Nicobar, Ross Island is named after Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose Island. So please remember this fact also. It was in 2018, right? So please remember this fact also. So this is about the personality in news today. Now we'll see the quick updates of this week. So first quick update of the day is regarding the Central Information Commission. And what is the development? So development is that CIC rule that the advocate cannot use the RTI Act to obtain the case details for the clients. So this is the development. Now we'll see about the CIC. So what is the genesis or how it is formed? So it is the statutory body and it is under the Right to Information Act 2005, and its purpose is to greater information access to the citizen and the transparent administration. That is the one thing. What is its function? So function is to receive and inquire into complaints from any citizen regarding the RTI Act and its implementation or any related accountability and transparency issues. So this is its function. And what is about its membership? So it will have the one chairman and it is called as Chief Election Commissioner and not exceeding 10 information commissioners. So this is the membership and the organization structure of the CIC. And who do appointment? So the appointment is done by the president, right? And to president it is recommended by the committee of the three, and which that committee is comprised of whom? So first is the Prime Minister, then secondly leader of opposition of the Lok Sabha, and thirdly the Union Cabinet Minister, which is nominated by the Prime Minister. So this is the 3-member committee which recommended the members to the president, and then president appoints them, right? So this is in this committee Prime Minister acts as the chairman, right? And what is the tenure? So tenure of the commissioner and the chief election commissioner, chief information commissioner is 3 years. So please remember that there is one change. Previously this tenure was 5 years, but after the amendment this tenure is now 3 years. So this is the fact which you should remember. So this is all about the Central Information Commission. Now let's see the next quick update of the day. So next quick update of the day is social commerce. And what is the development? So basically social commerce is very famous in China, and despite huge potential, India lags behind China and Indonesia in terms of social commerce development in India. And what is the social commerce? So social commerce is the buying and selling of the goods and services directly within the social media platforms. So social media platforms are used as the platform of commerce or e-commerce. So that is one thing. And there are 3 forms of social commerce. First is live streaming. Secondly, there are influencer who says that this product is good or bad, and then people purchase it directly. And then there is group buying. What is the group buying? So if there is the group of people or the friends or the group of organizational people and they want to purchase, for example, one phone, if the price of that phone is 20,000 rupees and 100 people if giving the order, that price may reduce by the 2-3,000 and they may get the same phone in the 17 or 18,000 rupees. So that is also one of the things. So there are three forms of the social commerce. And then what are the reasons for the low adaptation of the social commerce in India? The first is that the India is the low trust society. Indian society do not trust even the influencer also. And India influencer say many things which are not correct also, and there is very lack of accountability of the influencer if they give the misinformation. One thing, then there is infrastructural issues within the customization needed in the term of language. There are language barriers, and if a particular influencer is talking in one language, it is not possible that all the people or may understand that thing. Then there is logistic and the scale issues also. If we are placing order online or in the social media, it is not possible logistically to deliver, so it have to collaborate with the e-commerce platform, and that is one of the issue. Then there is preference for the cash payment. So generally in India, people prefer to go to the market or the shops and see the things and then purchase by the cash and not by online. That is also thing. And then regulation and misinformation, as we already discussed this point. So this is all about the social commerce and the issues in the social commerce adaptation in India. Now we will see the next quick update of the week. So next quick update is about Environmental Protection Fund. And what is the development? So Union Ministry of Environment have notified the Environmental Protection Fund rules 2026 to streamline the Environmental Protection Fund. And what is the Environmental Protection Fund? So basically it is constituted under the Environmental Protection Act of 1986, and it is the public account of India. And how it is collected, what is the corpus? So this is collected by the fines under the Air Act of 1981, then Water Act of 1974, and the Environmental Protection Act of 1986, and their violations. And if their violations are caught, they are fined, and this is how the corpus is built and how it is allocated. So 75% of this fund are remitted to the state or UTs, and 25% of this fund is contained or retained by the central government. And how it is utilized? So it is utilized for the monitoring networks, remediation of the contaminated sites, and R&D in the clean energy development or the clean energy technology development. So this is all about the quick update. Now we will see the next quick update, and the next quick update is about Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. And what is the development? So in its fourth phase, government have sanctioned around 10,000 kilometers of the rural roads across the 6 states. Right? Now we will see about the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. So which is the ministry? So it is by the Ministry of Rural Development and it is not by the highways and the roads. Secondly, it is launched in December 2000. So it is about 25-year-old scheme, and it have the 4 various phases. So we'll see what are those phases and what is its type. So it is the centrally sponsored scheme. And what is the centrally sponsored scheme means state will also contribute some of the funds. Generally for the normal state, center contributes 60% and state contribute 40%. In hilly state, this proportion is 90:10. So please remember that thing also. And what is the objective? The objective is that all weather road connectivity to the unconnected rural habitations. Right? So this is the objective. All weather connectivity to unconnected rural habitations. Now we will see the phases. In first phase, we started in 2000. And what was its objective? Universal rural access to the villages, market, and the service linkages. Then second phase started in 2013. And what was its purpose? So its purpose was to upgrade and consolidation of the rural network. And then there is phase 3 that started from the 2019. And what is its purpose? So its purpose is to upgrade around 1,25,000 kilometers of roads and improve connectivity to the socio-economic institutions. So which are the socio-economic institutions, such as schools or the medical centers or the hospitals or the other government offices? So these should be connected, and that is the phase 3. And in phase 4, that is from the 2024 and it will last till 2029, around 25 unconnected habitations to be connected via 62,500 kilometers of the road. So this is all about the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. Now we will see next quick update of the day. And the next quick update of the day is about Responsible Nations Index. And what is the context? So India recently launched the Responsible Nations Index RNI to prioritize ethical governance and the global responsibility over their economic strength. And what is the significance or the highlights of the index? So it is developed by the World Intellectual Foundation with the JNU and IIM Mumbai. So WIF with the JNU and IIM Mumbai have developed it. And what is its framework? So its framework is to global index evaluating 154 countries on the responsibility parameters. And what are these parameters? So the parameters are access to nations on the ethical governance, social well-being, then environmental stewardship and the global responsibility. So these are the parameters, please remember that. And who are the top performers? So as usual, Singapore is first, Switzerland is second, and Denmark is third. What is India's standing? So India is 16th, and United States is at 66, and China is at 68. So this is all about the Responsible Nation Index. Let's see the next quick update of the day. And the next quick update of the day is about the generalized scheme for the preferences. And what is the development? So it is the scheme of the European Union, and it have extended the suspension of preferential trade benefits to India under the generalized scheme of preferences. And now we will see about the scheme. So basically this is the scheme by the European Union, and it was started in the 1971, and it is the unilateral trade preference scheme, basically, which means that European Union doesn't want anything in return in this scheme, right? And what is the purpose? So purpose is to poverty reduction and the promoting sustainable development in developing and the least developed countries. Now we will see there is a 3-tier mechanism in this scheme. So first is that general GSP. In this thing, around 66 tariff lines have the duty reduced. So duty will be reduced in the 66% of the tariff lines in the eligible developing countries. Then there is GSP plus, where there will be zero duties on the 66 tariff lines in the eligible developing and the least developed countries. And then there is everything but the arms. So full duty-free access to the least developed countries, and all imports of these countries are free except the weapons, right? Only United Nations actually declares least developed countries, and presently I think there are 44. So this number has to be checked, but these countries which are very least have the least development, and they have the free access to their imports in the European Union. So this is all about generalized scheme for the preferences. Now we will see the next quick update of the day. And the next quick update of the day is that the Central Silk Board. What is the development? So government has increased the Central Silk Board's approval limit so that project will be speedily implemented. And what are the key highlights of the Central Silk Board? So basically it is a statutory body formed by the law, and it was formed in 1948, right? Then what is the ministry? So ministry is Ministry of Textile, and where it is headquartered? So its headquarter is Bangalore, Karnataka, right? So please remember this also. Now we'll see about the silk in India. So basically India is ranked second in the silk production, and it is the largest consumer of the silk in the world. Secondly, what are the types of silks? So there is mulberry, oak tussar, then tropical tussar, and muga and the eri. These are the 5 types of the silk. And 92% of the country's total raw silk production comes from the mulberry silk. Please remember that the mulberry is the largest silk produced in the India. So this is all about the Central Silk Board. So this is all about the this week's weekly roundup. You can visit our digital current affair and solve the various quizzes and read the current affair and also make the notes. So this is all. Thank you. Happy learning.